everyone, it's Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield here from Transport Evolved. Wow, way to make my Monday morning. Go to bed on Friday night late after we had a bit of a family crisis. Upload the TEN Transport Evolved news show. It was a 15-minute show this week and we tried some new things. Wake up this morning, 11,500 views. Thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you, because more views means more money, because we do ad revenue on our show. And so thank you to those of you who watched and left comments. I apologise if I can't keep up with the comments right now, but there are so many comments coming through on a daily basis that it's just impossible for me to respond personally to each of them. There's also quite a lot of name calling still going on, and I have decided to ignore the name calling because that works best for me. But just as I was preparing to upload Friday's TEN, a new story broke. It was the spy shots of the new Nissan Leaf, showing that Nissan is indeed very close to bringing its next generation electric hatchback to market, which is great, especially as someone who is a Nissan Leaf owner. I have owned two. This is my second Nissan Leaf. I'm trying to put both pronunciations in because people complain if I say Nissan, people complain if I say Nissan. So if I say Nissan and Nissan in the same video, I'll piss everyone off. Oh, sorry, I'll upset everybody. But the spy videos went live for the Nissan Leaf on Friday, or rather the spy shots. People asked if we'd seen them at Transport Evolved. We did indeed, we have seen them. But what you might not know, and how spy videos and spy shots go, is that there are people whose job it is to professionally nab those kind of photographs, and they're based very often in the places where the cold and the hot weather testing takes place, which is what happened here. These spy shots were taken somewhere where a Nissan Leaf was doing cold weather testing, wearing full camouflage gear, but it's obviously a Nissan because of the styling and the shape and the badge and the fact there's no tailpipe. It's kind of obvious that that car was in fact the second generation Nissan Leaf. But when they take those photographs, what they do is they then charge an exorbitant amount of money to any news site that wants to buy the rights to use those photographs. And if you don't buy the rights to use those photographs and you try and show those photographs, you get in a lot of trouble. So that's why we haven't put the photos up on our website, because we can't afford spy shot photos. I mean, we're talking upwards of a couple of $100 for one image, or as much as over 1,000 for like a full set, and we just don't have the money to do that. So I'm sorry. What you're going to get instead is my reaction to those shots. I know that Autoblog Green ran them, Motor Authority did as well, a couple other sites. So if you want to go and look at those images, you can do. Maybe have those up on a browser page next to this video, and I'll talk you through some of the features as we go. So this is stylistically very close to the Nissan Leaf that we know and love. It's a lot more mainstream, which is what Nissan said all along. This car is going to be much more of a mainstream vehicle. It's going to appeal more to mainstream buyers and get rid of some of the nerdy features that made the first generation Leaf such a polarizing vehicle. So gone are those big, high, bug-eye headlights, which I'm personally a fan of, because I like to give everything anthropomorphic traits, from animals to cars, and I think that the little headlights are like eyes on the first generation Leaf. Also gone at the back are those big sweeping tail lights, which again I'm a fan of, because if you're on a motorbike or you're on a big vehicle that's quite high off the ground, being able to see those lights higher up on the vehicle actually aids the vehicle's visibility and aids your job as a driver. You can see what the car intends to do a lot more easily. The other thing that you'll notice is slightly different about the next generation Leaf is that the charge port door has been moved up on the nose, which is very much like the design we saw on the Nissan IDS concept car that was debuted, I think it was in 2015 it would have been, at the Tokyo Motor Show. So it's got that same kind of feel, that same kind of front end. Of course, the IDS was a really good indication of where Nissan wanted to go with the next generation Leaf, and what we're seeing here with these spy shots, although the car is covered in camouflage tape, again, that camouflage tape is designed to make it difficult for spy shots and people who just see the car to figure out exactly what it's going to look like. But we can see some of those design features from the IDS have made it to the Leaf, albeit toned down a little. So the front end is a slightly more toned down of the version that we saw on the IDS. The charge port door further up the nose, more towards the top of the bonnet or the hood than towards the front, which is what we have on the current generation. And that serves the two things. It allows Nissan to have that trademark grille, the V grille that it's now putting on all of its vehicles. But it also gives Nissan presumably extra space to put sensors and whatnot. Now, we can't see if there are any sensors on the vehicle based on the spy shot that we saw, but I think it would be a good indication that that is the case. The other thing to bear in mind here is that the overall roof line of the car, now this is either a pre-production prototype or it might just be a test mule, so the final design may look different. That's the other thing I should have mentioned. We've got a roof line and doors that are very much, if not identical, to the existing Leaf. Now that tells us either that Nissan has decided not to do a ground-up redesign. The other reason is that the Nissan Leaf, the first generation car's design, worked so well that it's been decided to keep the door layout and the roof line for the next generation model. And we've seen that before. I mean, if you look at the second and third generation Toyota Prius, you'll notice that they're very similar in a lot of the design language, although they are completely different generations of cars. It's a subtle evolution rather than a knee-jerk, clean slate design, which can sometimes backfire on automakers. You know, I wish I could show you what I'm looking at in the distance. I'm driving through Hillsboro in Oregon, which is my hometown, and the coastal range, the Oregon coastal range in the distance looks absolutely gorgeous, and there is some snow on the top of the mountains and it just looks beautiful, and the sun is just right, it's capturing the mountains. It's really beautiful. If you ever visit Oregon, look me up, I will take you to the coastal range, but not past the guy who's dressed like the Statue of Liberty. That's slightly disturbing. There was a guy doing the juggling of the signs, and if you don't live in America, you don't know what I mean. But they pay people to basically juggle signs at the side of the road to get your attention to go and buy a new bed or whatever. It's very bizarre. I'm just pulling into the car wash. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm going to a brushed car wash. I know that's bad for your paintwork. This is a family car, and I'm afraid today time is very limited, so I'm going to get the car washed using a horrible brushed car wash. They do a reasonably good job, and I will be back presently, so stay there and I'll continue my thoughts on the next generation Leaf in just a few. There's a bear at the side of the road. Seriously, there's a bear at the side of the road. See the bear? It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. Very weird.
Premium wash for you today?
$10 one, please.
$10, that's good. You like a receipt?
No, I'm good, thanks.
No?
If I can get that bear. 1 second. He's gone inside just as I came round. The bear's obviously had enough. Here we go. I feel about 6 years old when I come through these. They're brilliant. The stupid thing is we never had a car when I was growing up, so I don't know why I feel about 6 years old when I go through a car wash, but I do, especially when they do the cool lights, which is what this one does. Here comes the pretty coloured lights. Gone all blue. I'm blue in Aberdeen, 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 Aberdeen. Oh my god, that's giving fursuiters a bad name. He's looking through the head, which is normal for a suit like that, but gosh, that's cringeworthy. And I say that as a fursuiter. Anyway, where was I? So we are talking about the second generation Nissan Leaf and the spy shots that we saw for that car, which became public on Friday last week. And I was talking about the door design and the roof line being very similar to the original Leaf, and that leads me to think that inside there's not going to be a huge amount of changes. There's probably a really good reason though why the design hasn't changed all that much. To be honest, the current design for the Leaf, the interior, works really well if you're a young family. Our kids were 7 and 8 when we got our 2011 Leaf. That was our first Leaf. They are now very quickly approaching 14 and 15 years old this summer. And the Leaf has pretty much taken family life in its stride. The first generation Leaf, we had those light white seats. They took a real beating and they were fine. This is the 2013 Leaf we bought used when we moved to the States, and it's taken a hammering too. The leather seats are in good condition. I think we've got one slit in the seats. But generally, this car has held up to the test of time. This car's got, nearly 56,000 miles on it, and it's still rock solid. The only criticism of this car is that the battery tunnel that exists does kind of get in the way of a third person in the back row, unless they've got very small legs. But that's something we can work with. I know people who've managed to fit 3 full-size child seats in the back of their Leaf. So again, this is a very practical interior for most normal families. Now, what we know about the 60 kilowatt hour battery pack that Nissan has been working on is that it occupies the same physical space as the 24 kilowatt hour pack in the original Leafs and the 30 kilowatt hour pack in current generation Leafs. So that would mean that, I presume, the floor layout is going to be the same as well. I keep my fingers crossed that Nissan's figured out a way to get rid of that little tunnel in the back, but I don't know if it will. The lack of tunnel would put it on par with the Chevrolet Bolt EV in terms of interior space, and that's something very important, I think, that Nissan needs to bear in mind before bringing this car to market. The other thing that I will note, however, is that based on these spy shot pictures, the boot space, the trunk space in the next generation Leaf is going to be about the same as it is in this car, which is larger than that available in the Bolt EV. It's the only area of the Bolt EV which is a bit of a letdown, and that's based on my short sort of couple of days with the car. Now, of course, it's not all just about volume. I would say the Bolt EV in some ways has probably got a more practical opening because it's a squarer opening rather than the curved ends that we've got on the current generation Leaf. But it's going to be interesting to see if that changes at all for the next generation Leaf. What about interior gauges and the like? Well, spy shots unfortunately don't give us a huge amount of information, but from what I can glean, the car we saw did look to have very similar pod arrangements to the current generation Leaf, again, which suggests that the transition between the first and second generation Leaf will be more evolutionary than revolutionary. So let's now talk about all those bumps and lumps all over the car. Now, that could be one of two things. It could be Nissan's attempts to try and hide some of the styling language used in the Leaf. Automakers are known to do that, to try and throw off spy photographers and automotive journalists like me. But it could also, and I think more likely in this case, be the location for some of the sensors that Nissan says it's going to be putting in the next generation Leaf. We already know that ProPilot is coming to the Leaf. And based on the cars that we saw on Nissan's stand at CES, it's very common for Nissan to put those sensors in what you would normally assume are roof rails that run up either side of the roof line of the car. The other thing, obviously, we should talk about, which isn't obvious in the picture, is charging capabilities. Now, based on the size of the charge port door on the front of the Leaf, I predict we're still going to see CHAdeMO DC quick charging as the de facto standard moving forward. Now, this is interesting because Hyundai has gone to the CCS quick charge standard for its Hyundai Ioniq electric vehicle. Previously, Hyundai and Kia used the CHAdeMO standard, which is the preferred standard in Asia. And it does suggest that Nissan is sticking to its guns on CHAdeMO and using that standard over the CCS standard that's preferred in Europe and North America. Now, I might be wrong. There might just be one port under there. But it certainly looks as though it's been designed to have a J1772 level 2 socket and a CHAdeMO quick charger socket in there as well. Be interesting to see, but that's my prediction. We know that CHAdeMO is already working on a next generation of its standard that can accommodate, 200-300 kilowatts of charging, just like the next generation CCS quick charge standard. If the battery on the Leaf is indeed 60 kilowatt hours or larger, which is what we're led to believe, that's going to be really important, because charging a 60 kilowatt hour pack at 50 kilowatts, that's going to take more than an hour to give you that full charge, which is the problem affecting the Chevy Bolt EV at the moment. It uses a CCS quick charge standard. That's a $750 option even on the car. And to charge from empty to full on that car is over an hour using CCS. And so instead, what GM is doing in its advertising is saying, look, you can add 90 miles of range in 30 minutes. And I think we're probably going to see that with the second generation Leaf as well. But it does cause some concern that the only time you're going to be using that quick charge standard really is when you're doing long distance trips. And that long distance trip capability is going to mean that you're going to be stuck at a charging station. You're only going to have to stop at charging stations, every couple of 100 miles. But when you stop, you're going to be stuck there for potentially an hour or more while you're charging up, unless Nissan's adding like 150 or 200 kilowatt capabilities, which fingers crossed it is. So those are my thoughts on the next generation Leaf based on the spy shots that we've seen. I think it's going to be an interesting vehicle. Obviously, we'll know more in the coming months, and the fact that there is a vehicle undergoing winter testing right now tells me that the next generation Leaf really is just round the corner, which is what Carlos Ghosn said when we asked him that question in January this year at CES. And that's really exciting, because it means that while the Chevy Bolt EV is the go-to car right now, it's worth remembering that the Chevy Bolt EV is not due to have a nationwide rollout across the US until August this year. Although it's available now in Oregon already, it's going to be August before you can go into any Chevy dealer in the US and have a chance of ordering one. And even then, the dealer has to opt in to buy the car. Now, I know that Nissan's probably going to have a similarly slow rollout for the next generation Leaf, but obviously it's also important for people in Europe, because right now, certainly in the UK, the Chevy Bolt EV, or the Opel Ampera E as it's going to be called over there, isn't an option, because GM's not going to be making a right-hand drive version anytime soon. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I've now got a clean car, and of course you can also support us through Patreon, our crowdfunding campaign, and the link for that is at the end of this video. So stay and watch the credits, and then click on the Patreon link and donate from as little as $1 per month. It really does help. My goal by the end of spring is to reach $2,000 in donations per month, which not only enables us to actually pay a camera person to come and film some more exciting reviews, which means we get more camera angles, more options, but it also means that we get to go more places and do more fun things. And there's a new YouTube series that I really want to do, which is talking to people about how to make their regular cars cleaner and greener to drive, and I can't do it until we're bringing in some more money every month, so please do consider donating. It's lunchtime for me. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks for joining me. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. See you tomorrow, and keep evolving.